Our first goal with these 3 examples today will always be to write an equation. And then we're going to use that equation to answer 1 or 2 follow-up questions. As with the word problems that I think we did earlier in the school year, so kind of just underline the important information, $4 fee per hour. They gave us 2 numbers. We're going to want to make sure that we use both of those numbers. Something else to think about, what do we not know? Okay, so when given a word problem, we're going to not freak out. We're going to take a breath and then find the important information and figure out what we don't know. So in this one, I don't know the number of hours. And I'm going to use H since we're talking hours instead of X and Y. If you want to use X and Y, that's fine. Okay. And the other thing that we don't know is the total cost, because I know I'm paying a $4 fee and this much per hour, but how much am I actually paying at the end of this? So I'm going to do C equals total cost. Going back up to these numbers then, let's just change it from words into math. So my total cost has to equal, I've got a $4 fee. Okay, I start at $4 just automatically, plus $150 per is multiplication. Hour, I'm using H for. Okay. Something else to be mindful of, if you see the word per, that's going to clue you in on your slope. Because if we look at this equation, we're still actually in slope-intercept form. Here's my starting point, so here's my B, here's my slope, that you can write your equation this way, or we can rearrange it into that y equals mx plus b that we've been dealing with all chapter. Questions with writing the equation before we use it to answer some other questions? Okay, we're going to use that equation then. So the next question, find me the total cost for 4 hours. And I actually want to see what you guys try first. So where can that 4 hours go into this equation? Get an answer for me. Using this equation, where can you substitute the 4 into to find me the total cost after 4 hours of bike riding? Good, Hermela. Yes, Salim. Good, Diego. Good. Sean. Okay, Noah. Oh, yes, Hermela. Okay, got it. Yes, Will. Okay. I love the number of you that are also putting a label with your answer. That is awesome. That's good attention to detail. So 4 hours, that would have to go in for my H. So if I were writing this out, C equals 150 times 4 plus 4, 150 times 4 is equal to 6. 6 plus 4, I'm paying a total of $10. And like I said, I love how many of you had a label on your final answer. Perfect. All right, I have one more follow-up question for you. Can you find me the number of hours if they paid $16 for their total? So we're still using that same equation. What can you do with the 16 to find me the number of hours? Good, Salim. Watch which variable you're using though. Where can that 16 go into our equation? Can you find me the number of hours? Good, Hermela. Yes, Diego, thank you for your label. Good, well. So this time, $16, that's my total cost. So that's gonna go in for C. My work then would look like 16 equals 150H plus 4. And from here, we need to solve for H. So I would subtract 4 from both sides. Divide both sides by 150. And we end up with an answer that it would be 8 hours that I rented the bike for if I paid $16 in total. So we've got 2 other problems that we're going to touch on. Any questions on this first one? I will go ahead and tell you guys, you won't have any word problems on your homework for today, but on Thursday and on your test on Monday, you will see some word problems. So they are coming, but today we're just going to focus on them through our notes and you won't have them for homework. All right, so the second example then, and if you weren't done with the first one, I'll post a copy of the key so you can go back and copy down what you missed. Okay, question 2, we're going to talk about a cider stand that sells small cups for $25. And large cups for $2.50. And it made $265. Should you want to work ahead, our first step is still going to be writing out what the equation looks like. So if you want to go ahead and try that, send me your answer in Zoom chat and I'll tell you if you're close or if you've got it completely correct. I'll wait about a minute and then I'll go through how to set up this equation. And you can just even try to send me an equation. Nobody else will be able to see your answer because you might surprise yourself and be closer than you think. Nicely done, Diego. So let's take a look. If you think back to the first example, remember how we wrote down what we weren't sure of? So I'm going to do that again. We know how much the small cups cost, but we don't know how many were sold. I'm going to use an N for small because my S's can sometimes look like 5s and I don't want to confuse you guys. So M is going to be the number of small cups Sorry if that's really blurry for you guys right now. And I'm going to be like Diego and use a capital L for my large cups. Okay, we know the price, but we don't know how many we got. So my two variables this time, I'm going to use N and L. Stephen and Imolak, you're very close. So coming up here, we've got to use these three numbers that they gave us. So if he made 265, that would be my total. So 265 equals small cup price 125. But I don't know how many we got. So it would be 125M or X or S, whatever variable you're using. And plus large cups for 250. So 250 times every large cup that we get. If you had an equation written in this order, this would also work. Okay, so it's set up different. If you remember at the very beginning of our notes, we talked about writing equations in slope, intercept, and standard form. So this is standard form because it's not y equals mx plus b. Okay. Let's use this equation then to answer one follow-up question. So our one follow-up question is how many small cups if 35 large were sold? And again, I'll give you about a minute to write that down. Maybe go ahead and try to set it up, what you think it's going to look like, and then we'll go over it together. And now's a great time if you have any questions to be asking me what your questions are. think about where that 35 can go into this equation. And we know it's 35 large cups, so 35 is going to replace my L. Close, Salim. So I would still have 125N plus my 250 still there. But instead of L, I'm going to put 35 in its place. So this is what the new equation would look like. Okay, 125M plus 250 times 35 equals 265. And so from here, now we're simplifying. $250 times 35 gets me to 87.5. Carmel, I have a different answer. Okay, well, subtract 87.5 from both sides. Yes, Diego. Divide both sides by 1.25. And we should be ending up with 142 small cups were sold. I would like to set up one more equation from a different problem. Can I answer anything with this one? Can I clear up any confusion before we talk about our last one? And then you'll be able to work on the homework. All right, one last example again. Then, remember you will see word problems on your test. Okay, so make sure during the homework time, if you have questions that you're asking. Example 3, our last one. In words, we have a car that has a 16-gallon gas tank. You use 2 gallons per hour on a road trip that you're taking. What do you think that equation would look like? And why don't you go ahead and try to set up what that equation would look like? Take a guess, if nothing else, once you've got the problem written down. Will, that would work. Okay, make sure you've got an equal sign somewhere for me, otherwise it's not an equation. I'm going to set up again my variables. So we don't know how many hours, but I'm going to use H again. Good, Hermela. Yes, Diego, that would work. Okay. And then a lot of you are using X's and Y's, and that's fine. Okay. H would be number of hours. I'm going to use G for the amount of gas left. Okay, that way I know what is being represented in this problem. Okay. So the amount of gas left, that would be my total. Again, a lot of you are using Y, that's fine. Okay. I start with 16 gallons, so that would be my Y-intercept. And then if you think back to the first problem, we said per was multiplication or our slope. Okay, anytime you see the word per, think slope. So 16, we're using though. So over time, the amount of gas is getting smaller. That this would actually be minus 2H or 2X, whatever it is that you were using. So here's option 1. Or again, X's and Y's are fine. You could write it as negative 2H plus 16. If you had a different, because there is one more answer, but I don't want to confuse you guys necessarily with it. So if you want to check that your answer is correct, send me a message and I will tell you whether it works or not. Like Diego, yours works, and Will, yours works. I think I told you both that, but I couldn't remember. Okay. And so we're kind of out of space, that I just wanted you to set up one last equation. That here's the deal for the rest of class. On Schoology, and I'll show you guys. Okay, so on Schoology, we've got a new week's folder. It'll be published here in just a second for you guys. You guys already took the notes. If you need to look at my key, you can look at the key. Take a picture for me, send it to me. Here's your homework. So your homework tonight is going to start reviewing, finding slope from a table, from 2 points, from a graph, writing equations. Going to start getting you ready for your test. And then if you need to, here's a video link of me walking through the notes if that's something that helps you as well. Let's do